History is full of ridiculous, pointless, and downright weird conflicts. But few can top the Montenegro-Japan War, a war that lasted for a mind-boggling 102 years, despite the fact that absolutely nothing happened. Yes, you read that right. This was a war where no one fought, no one died, no battles were waged, and perhaps most hilariously, one side didn't even know they were in a war at all. So, how did tiny Montenegro, a Balkan kingdom with a population smaller than some Tokyo neighborhoods, end up at war with Japan, a rising military powerhouse on the other side of the planet? And why did it take over a century for someone to say, hey, maybe we should, actually end this? Buckle up. This is the bizarre, hilarious, and completely unnecessary tale of the war that never was. Let's start with Montenegro, a small but fierce kingdom in the Balkans. Back in the early 1900s, it was ruled by Prince Nicholas I, a guy who loved two things: Russia, which Montenegro saw as a big, friendly Slavic older brother. Jumping into wars, often with zero hesitation. Montenegro was tiny, about 250,000 people, no navy, and an army that was more local villagers with guns than a well-equipped fighting force. But that didn't stop Nicholas I from picking fights with the Ottomans, the Austrians, and basically anyone he didn't like. Now, to really understand Montenegro, you need to know that Montenegrins have a bit of a reputation, especially in the Balkans. They're known for being brave, stubborn, and incredibly proud. But also, well, kind of lazy. A popular Balkan joke goes, "Why do Montenegrins always walk so slowly?" So they don't get tired before reaching their destination. Basically, Montenegro's national motto might as well be, "Why do something today when you can put it off for 102 years?" And oh boy, did they live up to that reputation in this war. Meanwhile, over in Japan, things were very different. Japan had modernized like crazy, transforming from a feudal society into a full-blown military powerhouse in just a few decades. They were flexing their muscles on the world stage, and in 1904, they went to war with Russia over territory disputes in Korea and Manchuria. This wasn't just any war. It was a groundbreaking conflict that would change global history. The Russo-Japanese War, 1904 to 1905, was the first time an Asian country defeated a European empire in modern warfare. Japan's military obliterated Russia's forces, proving they were a serious world power. But here's the thing. While Japan was busy winning battles, destroying fleets, and reshaping history, they had absolutely no idea Montenegro even existed, let alone that it had declared war on them. In 1904, Montenegro, eager to show loyalty to Russia, declared war on Japan. There was just one tiny little problem. Montenegro was nowhere near Japan and had absolutely no way to fight them. No navy, couldn't send troops, no real economy, couldn't fund a war, no strategy, just kinda declared war and went back to drinking rakicha. It's very possible that even the Montenegrin soldiers weren't aware they were at war. Imagine this conversation in a Montenegrin village. Messenger: "Men, we are at war with Japan." Villagers: "Where's Japan?" Messenger: "Far away." Villagers: "Can they get here?" Messenger: "No." Villagers: "Then what's for dinner?" And Japan? They didn't even acknowledge it. For all we know, some poor Japanese official saw the declaration, shrugged, and went back to doing literally anything else. The war went on for another year, with Japan wrecking Russia's navy and forcing them into a humiliating peace deal in 1905. The war was officially ended by the Treaty of Portsmouth, signed in the U.S. under President Theodore Roosevelt, who even won a Nobel Prize for brokering the peace deal. But here's where things got extra stupid. Montenegro wasn't invited to the peace talks because, well, why would they be? Japan had never even acknowledged Montenegro's war declaration, so there was no reason to sign a peace treaty with them. Now, in a normal world, you'd think someone, maybe a Montenegrin official or a Japanese diplomat, would have checked the paperwork and said, "Hey, shouldn't we make this peace thing official?" But nope. Instead, everyone just forgot. Montenegro never signed a peace treaty with Japan, which meant that, technically, on paper, they were still at war for 102 years. Now, if this had happened to any other country, there would have been at least one guy who brought it up. But this was Montenegro. For all we know, someone did notice, but just couldn't be bothered to deal with it. On a more serious note, Montenegro's involvement in the Russo-Japanese War was relatively minor, but it did have a symbolic and personal connection. Montenegro, a small Balkan state, had historical ties with Russia, and many Montenegrins, including soldiers and officers, volunteered to fight alongside the Russian Empire during the war. One of the notable figures from Montenegro was Aleksandar Lekso, a Montenegrin officer who gained fame for his bravery during the conflict. While Montenegro did not have a formal military role in the war, the support of Montenegrin volunteers exemplified the strong pan-Slavic sentiments and pro-Russian sympathies that existed in the region at the time. Aleksandar Lekso was a Montenegrin officer renowned for his valor during the Russo-Japanese War. Born in Vinica, Montenegro, he was a member of the Vasojevic tribe and the son of the esteemed commander Sava Sičić. Sičić's participation in the Russo-Japanese War is notable, with accounts highlighting his bravery and martial prowess. A prevalent narrative suggests that he engaged in a duel with a Japanese samurai, emerging victorious. This tale has become a celebrated aspect of his legacy. However, historical scrutiny raises doubts about the authenticity of this duel. The term samurai refers to a class abolished in Japan in the late 19th century, prior to the Russo-Japanese War. Additionally, comprehensive historical records do not substantiate the occurrence of such a duel. Some scholars consider the story more folklore than fact. Despite uncertainties surrounding specific anecdotes, Sičić's contributions to the Montenegrin military and his role in the Russo-Japanese War are well documented. He remains a figure of national pride in Montenegro, symbolizing courage and martial skill. Then, in 2006, something incredible happened. Montenegro became an independent country again. After years of being part of Yugoslavia and later Serbia-Montenegro, they held a referendum and finally became their own nation again. And that's when someone in Japan stumbled upon a very awkward historical fact. Guys? Technically, we're still at war with Montenegro. Cue mass confusion in Montenegro and mild amusement in Japan. At this point, Japan had two choices. Ignore it for another century and hope no one notices. End the war before Montenegro gets any funny ideas. They wisely chose the second option. So, in June 2006, a Japanese official traveled to Montenegro, and the two nations finally signed a peace agreement, officially ending their 102-year war. Montenegrins, being Montenegrins, probably celebrated by doing nothing for the rest of the day. So, what did we learn from the Montenegro-Japan War that never happened? Montenegro declared war, did nothing, forgot about it, and then took over a century to fix it. Japan defeated Russia, but it took them 102 years to defeat Montenegro. If you ever feel like you're procrastinating something important, just remember, Montenegro forgot to end a war for over a century, and with that, the longest, most peaceful, and most unnecessary war in history finally came to an end. Now that's one for the history books.